Hi students, welcome to lesson 18, Indigenization and Secularization. Now let us start with the introduction. India is a multicultural and multi-ethnic society. This has happened because of the fertile Ganga belt gave an opportunity for foreign invaders to settle in fertile Indo-Gangetic plain. The ancient religion of India, Sanatana Dharma, also amalgamated people from different religions and practices. The word secularism slowly found its way in the Indian constitution by way of constitutional amendments. But there is no secularism in India. The simple reason is the supreme law of the land has even been framed from out and paste of different constitutions in the world. The biggest dichotomy exists because most of the countries have one religion, but many ethnic groups, whereas we have many religions. Politics in this country as part of appeasement policy to different religious groups for their votes brought as a secular form in the constitution. It has become an unending debate because religion and politics are imbibed in Muslims, Christianity, Buddhism and Sikhism, where they have been taught to love and love their religion except Hinduism, which is a way of life. The Madras Religious and Charitable Act were to bring them under government control, but the voracious protest from Indian minority, the Muslim Christianity, the Parsi and Sikh institutions were spared from government control. India is a country with a diverse culture that follows secularism in a distinct way. Now, let us look into the objectives of the lesson. To understand the meaning of secularization, to know the changes due to secularization in India. Let us understand the concept of indigenization and secularization. The fact of making something more native, the native transformation of some service, ideas, etc., to suit a local culture, especially through the use of more indigenous people in administration, employment, etc. This is usually called as indigenization. The term secular has taken its origin in the Latin word meaning the span of a century or the spirit of an age. The term means both religiously neutral sense of an immeasurably great span of time and the religious in negative sense of this world. Secularization was best used terminology by 𝗳𝗬𝗍 and secularism refers to a practical philosophy for the people who intended to interpret and organize life without having recourse to the supernatural. It also means an attitude of independence to religious institutions and practices or to religious questions as such. Secularism implies anti-religious fervour. It also represented as a process unrelated to religious or religiosity. Now let us have a look into the types of secularization concept. The decline of religion where according to this type previously accepted symbols, doctrines and institutions have been losing their prestige and influence. The culmination of secularization being religiousness society, according to 𝗳𝗏 secularization is a process in which traditional religious symbols and forms have lost their force and appeal. The conformity with this world, where the second type gives the meaning as the culmination of secularization would be a society which observed with the pragmatic task of the present and a religious group, indistinguishably from the rest of the society. The religious group turns its attention away from the supernatural and becomes more and more interested in this world. The culture becomes secularized. According to Harry and Paul Douglas, secularized culture is one in which the conventional religion is no longer the operative religion. Now, the disengagement of society from religion, where secularization from this type would be a purely inward character, influencing neither the institutions nor corporate action, and a society in which religion does not figure outside the sphere of the religious group. According to French theologian and social analyst 𝗧𝗧 secularization is the historical process which tends to contest the public role of religion, to substitute other forms of authority for religious authority, and finally relegate religion to the private sector of human existences. According to this type, secularization has two forms: 1. The intellectual existence, 2. The institutional social, and the attempt made by the intellectual existential aspect is the disengagement to establish an autonomous sphere of knowledge having no religious presuppositions. It refers to the secularization of science or ethics or art insofar as they are separated from religious control. According to institutional social, secularization traces the term as the rise of secular state and its gradual assumption of the educational and welfare functions and once performed by the churches. For example, the Indian government is secularized because it has adopted an attitude of neutrality towards both the individual and groups, the religious belief and practice. According to Talcott Parsons, secularization is the decline of religion. It is a new way of conceiving and practicing religion in keeping with the general differentiation of society. The transposition of religious beliefs and institutions, where according to this culmination, secularization process would be a society which has taken over all the functions previously discharged by the religious institutions. Knowledge, the patterns of behavior and institutional arrangements which have been understood as the grounded in divine power are transformed into the phenomena of purely human creation and responsibility. The desacralization of the world. According to this culmination, secularization would be rational, and the rational society in which the phenomena of the supernatural would play no part. According to historian 𝗧𝗧, secularization means that man has become independent of religion and lives by reason, face to face with objectified physical nature and movement from a sacred to a secular society. According to this, secularization should be a society in which all decisions are based on rational and utilitarian consideration and there is complete acceptance of change. According to 𝗧𝗧, the main variable is resistance or openness to change. Sacred society is associated with the reluctance to change and secular society with readiness to change. The members of a secular society are willing or able to respond to new cultural elements, and it is organized and flexible principle which allow for variation and change. A secular society is able to make contacts with other societies. Its value systems are permeable. The process of secularization. Secularization is a process closely related to modernization. It is a process of desacralization of man, world and nature as objects of rational analysis and manipulation. The process leads to increasing purposeful rational motivation and decreasing effectual motivation. It implies that most issues and events in personal and social life are evaluated not from the religious point of view, but from the rational utilitarian, and with the intensification of the process of secularization, the various spheres of social life which have been formerly guided by the religious ordained norms are now increasingly governed by the norms which tend to be rational. In secularization process, knowledge, the world view and modes of response and adaptation to crisis and contingencies are purged of religious influences and presuppositions. According to 𝗵𝗏𝗧𝗧, the concept of secularization is to study social change and modernization in India. According to him, the term secularization implies that what was previously regarded as religious is now ceasing to be such. It implies a process of differentiation which results in the various aspects of society, and economic, political, legal and moral becoming increasingly discrete in relation to one another. The Indian concept of secular state is based on the acceptance of such a differentiation. According to Srinivas, secularization means rationalism, a comprehensive expressions applied to various theoretical and practical tendencies which aim at interpreting universe purely in terms of thought, regulating individual and social life in accordance with the principles of reason. Rationalism means replacement of the traditional beliefs and ideas by modern knowledge. According to Srinivas, secularization process in India relates to the British rule and the westernization process initiated by it. The British rule initiated a process of secularization of India, the Indian social life and culture. The development of communication, the growth of towns and cities, the increased spatial mobility and the spread of education strengthened the secularization process. It was due to this concept of secularism which was there in Indian culture for ages. India embraced different religions such as Islam, Christianity, etc. at different points of time. Secularism means the separation of religion from political, economic, social and cultural aspects of life, and religion being treated as purely personal matter. Here we will entail the separating religion from political, economic, social and cultural aspects of life and treating religion as purely personal. The phrase secular refers to being the agnostic to religion or without a religious foundation. Religion is available to everyone and is provided as a personal decision to each individual without any discrimination. The Vedic idea of dharma, the nirapekshata or the state's indifference to religion is similar to secularism. It is an ideology that supports the separation of state and religion, or it may be characterized as a doctrine that gives all religions equal status, acknowledgement and support from the state. A secular person is one whose moral ideals are not based on any religion. His or her ideas are the result of his scientific and reasonable thinking. Secularism argues for non-discrimination and partiality based on religion, as well as equal access to all religions. Now, let us discuss secularism in ancient India. In India, secularism dates back to Indus Valley culture. The priests did not dominate the towns of Lower Mesopotamia or the Harappa culture. In these urban cultures, dance and music were secular. Even after the arrival of the Jainism, Buddhism and subsequently Islam and Christianity on the Indian land, the struggle for religious tolerance and cohabitation of many religions remained in India. People in ancient India had religious freedom and the state provided citizenship to everyone, regardless of whether they practiced Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism or any other religion. In ancient India, the Sanatana Dharma, Hinduism, was essentially allowed to develop a holistic religion by accepting and attempting to integrate various spiritual traditions into a common mainstream. The emergence of 4 Vedas as well as the varied interpretations of the Upanishads and the Puranas clearly demonstrates the Hinduism's religious diversity. As early as 3rd century BC, Emperor Ashoka was the first major emperor to declare that the state would not persecute any religious sect. In his 12th rock edict, Ashoka urged not only the tolerance of all religious factions but also the cultivation of deep respect for them. The Ellora cave temples, for example, exhibit cohabitation of religions and a spirit of acceptance of diverse faiths. They were erected adjacent to one another between the 5th and the 10th centuries. Now, secularism in medieval India. The Sufi and Bhakti movements in medieval India helped to re-establish India's secular nature. They promoted secularism's various dimensions in society such as tolerance, fraternity, universalism, harmony and peace. Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti, Baba Farid, Saint Kabir Das, Guru Nanak Dev, Saint Tukaram and Mirabai were the forerunners of these movements. In medieval India, the state was defined by religious tolerance and freedom of religion under the Mughal ruler Akbar. As his minister, he employed a large number of Hindus and removed the jizya tax and prohibited coercive conversions. His tolerance policy is exemplified by the proclamation of Din-i-Ilahi or the divine faith. Din-i-Ilahi incorporated Hindu and Muslims' beliefs. The construction of Fatehpur Sikri, the Ibadat Khana, house of worship, was done to promote religious unity by allowing different religious leaders to voice their views in one location. Theologians from Brahmins, Jains and Zoroastrians were among those who attended this gathering. He promoted the notion of 𝗧𝗦𝗃 or religious peace and concord. Now, secularism in modern India. After Aurangzeb, the East India Company and the British Raj took control of India. Even though the British East India Company followed a policy of divide and rule, the Indian liberation struggle deepened and expanded the spirit of secularism. To some degree, the divide and rule approach contributed to communal strife among the diverse populations. This approach was followed during the partition of Bengal in 1905. Muslims were given separate electorates under the Indian Councils Act of 1909. The Government of India Act 1919 expanded the provision to include Sikhs, Indian Christians, Europeans and Anglo-Indians in certain areas. The Government of India Act 1935 established separate electorates for depressed classes, that is the scheduled caste, women and labour, the workers, further extended the notion of communal representation. The Indian liberation struggle, on the other hand, was characterized from the outset by a secular culture and ethos. The creation of Indian National Congress in 1885 based on secular ideas brought people of all faith together and steered the liberation struggle in a positive and successful direction. In a thorough study published in 1928, Motilal Nehru urged for the removal of separate electorate in order to establish a secular state. Jawaharlal Nehru secularism was founded on education and the dedication to scientific humanism, tinged with a progressive perspective of historical development. Whereas Gandhiji's secularism was based on commitment to the brotherhood of religious groups based on their respect for and pursuit of truth. Now, secularism related provisions. Secularism related provisions in the Indian Constitution. The essential ideas of secularism are explicitly included in many provisions of the Indian Constitution. The preamble to the Constitution of India proclaimed that India is a secular republic with the 42nd Amendment to the Constitution of India 1976. Indian secularism is represented in the country's fundamental rights, Article 25 to 28, which provide each person the freedom to follow any faith. A secular state is one in which no single religion is prioritized for the government and its citizens, and institutions began to support pluralism by recognizing and accepting all religions and enforcing parliamentary rules rather than religious laws and recognizing and accepting all religions. The Indian ideology of secularism is linked to the 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧, that is, which implies equal regard for all religions, meaning the end point of all religions. Pathways is the same, but the roads to themselves may be different. Western civilizations, where the government is completely diverse from religion, have embraced this secularism approach, that is, separation of church and state and no official religion. As far as no official religion is concerned, it is recognized as official in India, where it also does not owe any religious loyalty. There is a different personal law where such as marriage, divorce, inheritance and the alimony vary depending on the person's faith. Religion is neutral and India does not interfere in the business of anyone's religion. It accepts all religions on an equal footing. It guarantees religious freedom to people of all faiths. Citizens have the right to choose and practice their religion. Article 25 and secularism, where the Indian Constitution provides individuals with 6 essential rights, one of which is religious freedom. According to Article 25 of the Indian Constitution, each citizen has the following rights: freedom of conscience, right to profess any religion, right to practice any religion, right to propagate any religion, and Article 25 encompasses both religious beliefs, that is the doctrines, and religious behaviors, the rituals. Furthermore, these rights are applicable to all people, including citizens and non-citizens. However, individuals' basic rights are subject to reasonable limitations, and the central government or the state government can intervene in residents' religious matters in times of necessity. Let us sum up. To sum up the lesson, the term secular has taken its origin in Latin word meaning the span of century or the spirit of an age. The term means both religiously neutral, the neutral sense of an immeasurably great span of time, and the religiously negative sense of this word. Secularization is a process closely related to modernization. It is a process of desecularization of man, the world and nature as objects of rational analysis and manipulation. The process leads to increasing purposeful rational motivation and decreasing effectual motivation. Thank you.